Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence, a space for like-minded and open-minded individuals seeking to better themselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. So, I previously spoke on a topic about rituals. And this isn't just your basic analysis of morning routines and productivity and things like that. This is about integrating anything, any action or any state of being that will tap you into your divine source energy of abundance, joy, fulfillment throughout your day. So it could be an action that you do, like you make a cacao drink and you sit outside. It could be journaling. It could be doing a workout. But it's about prioritizing, if I were to simplify this, I would say it's about truly living in the moment, right? Like it's about making it a priority and a habit to go through your day-to-day life, and not just from one day to the next, but from 1 hour to the next, becoming so clear and clean in your energy and fine-tuned with what your feelings are that it almost becomes like second nature of a habit to think to yourself, you know what? I'm feeling a little disconnected from my source energy or from my feeling of abundance. I'm going to take a break and sit outside for a minute. That's what I mean by ritual. And I have a couple offshoots of this message that I want to dive deeper into, and I think that they all overlap in some way, which is this concept of it doesn't matter where you go, it matters who you're with. So I journaled about this, and I want to bring this up here because this doesn't just refer to friends or family or romantic relationships. This could very much refer to just solitude, right? It doesn't matter where you go or where you are, it matters who you're with, including if you're just with yourself. And what does that feel like? It's like the saying, wherever you go, there you are, right? And the reason I find that this relates so deeply to the rituals is that that's exactly the point we're making here, is that the rituals are tapping you into that internal feeling. And similarly, wherever you go in life, all you really have that's dictating your experience is your internal feeling. And so I talk about the external, I talk about the rituals not just being this external source of fulfillment, but rather a portal that you can access that divine source energy within you. And that's the important take-home message, right? Because if you're by yourself and you can feel joy and abundance, then it really doesn't matter where you are, right? It doesn't matter what your external circumstances are. And there's almost a level of, it's not detachment necessarily, although you may feel like you want to label it that way, but it's really just about self-sovereignty and feeling like, although of course there are things we want in life and we are going to have the human and egoic experiences of feeling disappointment when we don't get things we want, in the spirit of the law of attraction, that's really not where we're putting our focus, right? We're putting our focus on the things that we do want and that feeling of abundance within us. And so if you're able to conjure that at any given moment, then you suddenly have the most valuable, powerful way of existing on this planet, which is the co-creator of your own life, co-creating with the universe, of course, with the source energy that you come from, and the divine timing of it all the things that are kind of outside of the control of the 3D physical realm. And so I really want to get this message across that, like, this really is a way of being, and it's, you may call it a habit, you may call it a lifestyle, but it really is something that takes practice, and you may begin to get it, and then you may fall off, and then, life is meant to kind of ebb and flow, and we have different lessons to learn and different journeys to go on. And so I think being able to pull that energy inward and constantly think to ourselves, like, where are we at? What are we feeling? What do we want to feel more of? Then that's when we begin to conquer and really embody the concept of, it doesn't matter where you are, where you go, what your external circumstances are. It matters who you're with. It matters who you're surrounding your energy with, as well as what internal feelings you're allowing yourself to focus on and prioritize, right? And so your company is a mirror of your internal feelings, right? And so if you're around friends that are aligned with you, then you have good company, right? And similarly, if you're alone and you're tapping into feelings of abundance and fulfillment, then you are connected with your divine source energy, right? If you happen to be in a scenario where who you're with is feeling like an external circumstance that you don't like or that you're not aligned with, then you still have yourself. So it's almost a little bit ironic when we say it matters who you're with, because it actually also doesn't matter who you're with. But when we say who you're with, what we really mean is kind of that bubble of feeling that you are living in. And that's kind of the big secret here, is that, like, you have full control over that. Like, and so it's not really about who you're with. It's about the feelings you're with. So I hope that makes sense and resonates. So really, the guides I'm hearing are saying it actually doesn't matter who you're with in that sense. But if you're reading that as being with yourself, then that's really the key here. So you could say it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter your external circumstances. It doesn't matter the people you're around in a given moment, at least. It matters what you're feeling on the inside. Now, of course, like, where you are and who you're around is going to contribute to your overall energy. And so if you're in an environment where you're around people who have scarcity mindset, or you're around people who are not encouraging, then that's going to make it a lot harder for you to be with yourself in these feelings of abundance, right? So of course those things do matter to an extent, but in a given moment, we do have the power to tap into abundance. And like I said, it can be really hard to do this if your surroundings are not aligned with that. But we're not relying on our surroundings to get to the feeling state. So that's why that statement, it doesn't matter, comes in, right? Of course, if you're in a difficult scenario or around difficult people, we want to aim to change that, right? Of course, if we're around negative people, we want to get to a place where we're not around those people anymore. But the way to do that is not to just logically tackle that problem. The way to do that is to become skilled at conjuring those inner feelings of abundance. And this is where a lot of people don't really give the law of attraction enough credit, because they're focused on external goals And they're maybe even focused on the feelings they would get by achieving those external goals, but they're not really embodying those feelings alone, like on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute. Like they're kind of tethering those feelings to the external outcome, and that's preventing them from really getting the full picture and really fully understanding how powerful it is to be the conjurer of your own feelings, to be that sovereign being that has that full power over your own feelings. So again, if you're surrounded by difficult or negative or challenging scenarios, then of course it will be hard to just make yourself feel good. But the secret here is really that you can do that. And so that's why the saying kind of says, although it may seem contradictory, because of course energy is energy and we feel the energy that's around us, really truly the saying is that I'm hearing from the guides is that it really doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of, stepping into your power. And I really want to honor, for anyone who feels like that that they're in a difficult space and this seems impossible, and I really want to honor and make space for that, because this is not intended to be any type of spiritual bypassing where we overlook any difficult scenarios we're in and we just pretend that it's easy to snap our fingers and change how we feel. But what I'm trying to do here is plant a seed of empowerment. And so you may not master the art of just feeling abundance every minute of every day when you're in a very difficult scenario or very difficult or challenging living situation. But my intent is to plant this seed so that over time you can really begin to step into that empowerment and develop that skill. Because it does take practice and the ability to, the challenges that are giving you the opportunity to work on conjuring these feelings of abundance, right? And so that's kind of like a specific example I'm getting from the guides right now, is that, like, let's say you have a really difficult roommate and you're like, well, how can I possibly go through my day feeling great when my roommate is yelling at me or starting fights and it's just like a negative environment? And the way that we kind of switch this, like we kind of pivot our perspective or flip the switch, is that we say, wow, like I am being blessed with this amazing opportunity to practice feeling good when I have someone around me, someone in my own home, making me feel bad, right? Maybe there's some triggers I have to work through, some shadow work I need to do, but more importantly, I'm being asked to focus more on what does bring me joy in my life, because that's what's going to really feed into that vortex of the law of attraction that is going to kind of flip the script and get our frequency kind of expanding and beginning to create that habit of feeling abundance regardless of what's around us. So you may feel like, well, that's a really challenging example. Like, for me to be expected to feel positive when I have a toxic, relationship or a toxic roommate. But if you think about the bigger the challenge, the bigger the growth, the bigger the reward, then suddenly you see it as a bigger gift than an easier challenge, or a bigger gift than just being handed external things that made you feel joy and abundance easily, right? Like when you are being gifted this challenge of having to learn how to tap into abundance and joy when external situations do not make you feel that way, you are being gifted with the opportunity to develop a skill to maximum level, really, right? Like if you're being challenged, you are being gifted. That's the message that's coming through. So this is kind of a way we can kind of get our brains on board with it and recognize that when difficulties arise, it's that resistance that kind of sparks that fire of growth and expansion. Like I'm literally seeing like a fire when you have to rub two sticks together, right? Or like it's that contrast of like, this is a negative environment and I want to feel positive. It's that contrast that when you focus on the positive is what brings that momentum to spark and, yield that fire. And so we don't wish that, in that case, we wouldn't wish that there was no resistance. We would be grateful for the resistance because that's what led us to that momentum and fire, right? So I hope that this resonated because I really feel like coming out of the eclipses, like how we spend our days and, the way that we prioritize our thoughts and our energy is crucial. And I'm feeling like we're going through a collective shift, and that is in turn contributing to the evolution of the planet because more and more people are tapping into what brings them fulfillment. And when we do that, the entire frequency of the earth is evolving and expanding. And, just by playing your part individually as well as just in any given moment, your contribution is more valuable than you may recognize it to be. And so that's another way to just feel that gratitude of, oh, I had a moment today where I felt frustrated, and then I just took a few deep breaths and I decided that, you know what, I want to feel this way, and so I'm going to work towards that. And even just little moments like that are really key to the overall mission of, becoming this as an embodiment, as somebody who practices this on a day-to-day, right? Like it's made of those little moments, like becoming the highest self, becoming the person you want to be, who is able to, like second nature, tap into abundance. You only get there by starting with the little moments. And even if it's a challenging scenario, starting with the little moments is really the first step. That it's always the only first step we can do. So, and of course we have my cat meowing for confirmation. So I hope that this message resonated, and I will be on with more soon, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening. Bye.